Okay, let's go ahead and get into the stock market technical analysis. We'll go look at the broad markets, individual trade ideas, wrap up. All right, guys, drop me a thumbs up if you're finding value in the content. I do appreciate that. Just click the thumbs up button. Takes about a half a second. And then, guys, if you're interested in the private member group, link in the description below. Putting out additional trade setups, trade ideas, market commentary in that private member group. We've been in kind of a slow period over the last couple days because we've got big tech earnings today, and then we also have the Fed on Wednesday, and we have Apple on Thursday. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is where the action's going to be at this week. And so typically when we see kind of leading up to high volatility events, then we'll see kind of a slower period, and then the volatility should pick up. So once that volatility starts to pick up, it's going to be tough for me to basically keep up to date on the general channel on trades and the setups, but it's much easier for me to actively post charts and updates to the private member group. So check that out if interested, link in the description below. So we've got triple Qs kind of coming down today. Again, this to me is all just noise. Really, the last couple of days, it's all just noise because we've got those big tech earnings and the Fed on Wednesday. So down a little bit. We could be up after the earnings today. In general, if you go back and look at my video from 426, so just a couple days ago, the headline says, top of the rally is close. And I get a lot of commentary. I got one person who pretty much just a troll, wants to just basically call out, you know, if I'm not 100% accurate in terms of saying we're going to fall, and if it doesn't happen right at that moment, then they call me out. And in general, what guys, you know, I point out key levels, and you know, we're going to trade around those key levels. It doesn't mean we're going to just drop instantly because I put out a video. So again, this is resistance right here. I didn't think we were going to get up to it because it was such an obvious level, but we did, okay? That doesn't mean that it's not going to hold as resistance. It has been the key level of resistance the entire time, and it remains resistance. We're seeing selling today. Now, because it's such a key level and we did hit it, I could see us popping above it and running a bunch of stops. Because again, everybody notices that level as key level of resistance. So it only makes sense that you kind of have to trick people a little bit, and you know that would be maybe with a big move up and run, you know, kind of run the stops and then roll over. I don't know if that's going to happen. I'm just saying that's a possibility. All right. Again, everything that I talk about is just a possibility, and we want to just trade accordingly if we see those things line up. As of right now, we're being rejected, and it is resistance. So. But again, today is just noise. You know, I don't really make too much of today's price action. I'm not closing out my shorts. I'm not covering my shorts, even though we're down a little bit. And that's really it. So let's go to the Mag 7, and we'll look at I think Amazon reports. Yep. So Amazon's going to report. Looking at the daily chart again, resistance on this one. You know, if I roll out and I see the all-time highs. I've got kind of marked right here. This was kind of resistance. We did pop above it, but we did hold it for a little bit, popped above it. It was a divergent high, so it had a good probability of failing, and it did. It failed. And basically, we're just trading right there at that resistance level. So if I had to guess which way this one's going to go, I would say down. Now, it doesn't mean right after the report. Usually what happens is they'll send out their report. The algos fire off just instantly. They just, boom, take a position based on something they scan through the report. Then the large institutional money will come in typically in the next day in the regular market session and place their bets. So it's not so much what happens instantly right after in the after hours. It's really more important what happens tomorrow after, when the big money has an opportunity to take positions. But if I had to guess with the negative divergence that's in play, this thing's going to gap down after earnings. All right. Again, that's just a guess. Earnings is a crapshoot. Could gap up and then maybe the big money sells it down. I think regardless, we're heading lower. And that's it on Amazon. If I look at something like Microsoft, it's very similar. Look, Microsoft after hours, all right, they reported earnings. they kind of, look, here's the fake move, the trick move. Right before earnings, they broke this support, opening down. The buyer stepped in, recovered support, and then earnings came out and they gapped up. Okay. But if you see that, the algos fired the buy orders right after in the after hours, and the big money has been doing nothing but selling ever since. 1, 2, 3 days of selling, right back down to the support level right now. So Microsoft's sitting on support. We got to break this level for the next sell signal. You start to break this one, 397, and that means Microsoft's going to start to be, it's going to start to be headwinds for the triple Qs. And this is, I think this is the largest company right now. I think it's overtaken Apple. And so again, nothing but selling in Microsoft. They're smashing Microsoft. It's at support now, so we need to see it break. They might bounce it. Again, if Amazon bounces after earnings, maybe Microsoft catches a little bit off the support and then maybe sells down. The next sell signal comes on the break, all right? Google, same thing. Gap up after earnings. I hear a lot of BS talking in after earnings. When something gaps up, I get all kinds of comments on my channel. Oh, you blah. And then, but if you look, nothing but big money has been selling. Now, yeah, it's still up from the post-earnings gap up, but the big money's been selling, so I would anticipate this is going to continue to sell down, fill this gap, and ultimately start to make new lows. And that's it. That's what I see in the charts. And if you look, this one has an upward channel. All right, there's the top of the channel. Boom, back below it now. So that's resistance. We're sitting at resistance. It could be support. I mean, if the buyers step in right now, they might try to hold this as support. So that's possible. I mean, we're close enough if I zoom in that you can't definitively say that it's broken back into that range. But if we start to see selling from basically right here, then you could say that. And it would be, we'll probably go down, fill the gap, maybe bounce, but it will be resistance at that point again, which means the post-earnings gap up will have been a false breakout bull trap. All right. It will have trapped anybody who took a position after earnings. So that's how I read that one. If you look at Meta, again, Meta gapped down on earnings, and there's a little bit of buying post earnings, and that made sense because in the after hours it was right here. I closed out my short position in the after hours when we were basically right down in this area at that gap fill support, but we're still holding the bearish. We're still holding this island cluster top pattern, and it is continued to be a top, and I think it's going to be a lasting top. All right, so sell the rip if they want to rally it into resistance, which right now is about that 452.30, and they could maybe pop it above there slightly, but I wouldn't want to see it going too much above there. That is resistance. All right, and then Nvidia is kind of hanging in there, and so I don't see much in Nvidia where I just want to short the thing. Yeah. So Nvidia's kind of not in play right now. You can see it's not doing a whole lot. So we'll see what these, Nvidia's probably going to trade with in sympathy of the other Mag 7s while they go through earnings. And then we have earnings coming out in Nvidia in a couple of weeks. Apple, they're buying Apple. Well, they were not too much today, but you can see they were selling Microsoft and whatnot and buying Apple. So Apple's not anything I necessarily want to short either. Apple's kind of hanging in there. It looks like it's at resistance, and it has earnings on Thursday. So probably not going to do much until we get through earnings. And then Tesla gapping up on the breakout, pulling back a little bit today. Again, Tesla's not really in play for me either. I don't see anything that's really that interesting. If anything, I think Tesla could maybe go a little higher. Okay, it might fill this gap, but I think it could run up to 207-ish, and this 200-day get up a little bit higher. Someone asked me to cover gold futures, so here's what I got on gold. Here's GC. Again, let me check this trend line. Oh, there it is. Sorry, I had to adjust for the futures rolling. All right, so I've got kind of a double top, it looks like right here on gold futures. And, we had some reactions right in here. It's a breakout. It looks like a breakout to me. It made, the momentum's strong. I don't have negative divergence in momentum. So we're seeing a pullback. I think we probably will pull back to the point of the breakout, and that's where it probably dip below a little bit, run some stops, but in general kind of chop around in that area and hold. So that's the area where I'd be more interested in being a buyer down there. And then if I look at gold miners had negative divergence. This pretty much an equal high right there on this price action. And we've got some negative divergence. So again, support on GDX is about 32.30. We either hit that or we could pull back to this kind of a breakout point, which is down here. All right. And again, that's that trend line going back. You can mark it out. It pretty much goes back to about April. You got resistance, resistance. There's another reaction. And so, yeah, that would be support. All right. That's really all I see in miners. I think they still look decent in terms of like a buy the dip, but I think they're dipping right now. And if you look at something like Newmont, you know, you always want to track some of the larger ones. And Newmont's the largest. So you've got a high, a lower high, all right, it's in the RSI and the PPO, and a higher high on price. That was our earnings report. That's a divergent high. They're selling into it. Nothing but selling. So I think that can continue. And if you mark, I don't know, you may be a potential trend line. But again, I think a pullback down to the 200-day moving average would make sense. Possibly lower, but, you know, we'll keep an eye on GDX and stuff. Oil, here's oil futures. They don't look that weak. I mean, oil's pulling back. You can see, you know, dropping in price, but momentum's dropping as well. So it's just, there's no divergence. There's no negative divergence, just a pullback right now. So oil still, to me, looks like a buy the dip. We got support down here in oil futures about 79.75 or so. Good, strong support down there. So that's all I see in oil. Wheat kind of pulling back again today. Again, I talked about the two levels of support. One was about here, it's about 576. Another one's right there. This is much better support, of course, about 551. So I don't know. Looks like maybe it's heading down there. It's hard to say, but that, you know, could go down there. And, you know, I'd give it maybe a 50-50 chance it is going to get down there. So that's support. That's where I want to be a buyer. Strong momentum, just coming off a divergent low. It's by the dip in this one. So I definitely want to be a buyer down there for the next move higher. And a lot of people on the channel, you know, they love to troll me and call me out for, oh, he got this trade wrong. And, you know, they talk about all the trades that I got wrong and really pretty much never give me credit for getting any trade right. You look at like, you know, you look at triple Qs back in 2021, I was calling for a top right in here. We caught pretty much that entire downfall. I guarantee most people, especially those perma bulls and the ones that are trolling me, they were underwater down there. Caught, you know, that's a good 35% drop. Now, yes, I do agree. I did think we were going to continue to drop right back here in about, I think, December of 2022. I thought we were going to continue to drop. I was looking for, because this was a start of a bear market, I was looking for kind of a capitulation move where we kind of plunge a little bit to kind of end the bear move. We didn't get it, so I got that one wrong. All right, that happens. We then rallied, but again, recently, you know, caught this top here. All right, I think we've started the top, and I believe there's more downside. You know, given the technicals that we have, and I do think we're going to continue lower from here. Then you go into individual trade ideas. Just recently, SHW, bearish rising wedge, caught that pullback there. That was a gain of roughly down to that support, about 12%. We caught that. MPWR, there's another one. I don't remember exactly where I shorted this one. Possibly right here on this sell signal, and down to that support's where I covered. It's another 12% gain. We caught that one. GM, this one's still playing out, but I like it. You can see here, we've got this bearish rising wedge. We've got a breakdown. That's a sell signal one. Back test for a couple weeks, it looks like. Boom, rejected. Earnings, they gapped it right up to the top of that resistance zone, but that's held. And it's gapping down and selling down today. So again, I think that's the top right there, and we're gonna go on to make lower lows. Ultimately, I think we're heading. My target's right down here at 35. So that 35 or in change. So that one's still kind of playing out, but again, you know, the earnings move was just a divergent high. They gapped it up into resistance and made negative divergence. So down we go, I believe. ELF, I think I covered this one. Bearish rising wedge, negative divergence, sell signal, back test, roll over. Again, from the sell signal, this thing fell about 18% or so down to that support zone. Breaking down again, I don't have, you know, it's kind of choppy now, so not in it. You know, I took my 18% gain and moved on, but I think there is probably some more downside and probably a push down to the 200-day moving average. BlackRock, caught that one. We had the sell signal here and we had the back test here. I think I got in on the back test. Perfect tag of that with negative divergence. That one then sold down. The first support I had was right here at about 763.50, so about a 9.5% gain. Took my profit on that one. That was a winner. Here's another one, Marriott. Again, break, nice little upward trend line. Broke trend here. So that's your initial sell signal. If you took that, then you're profitable by about 4.5%. Nothing crazy. There's a back test. Again, still holding, and this thing's still playing out. My target's down here at 211. You've got support, good uptrend support, and all that right down there. So 211, and look, it's rolling over. So this one's working and continues to work. Eli Lilly reported earnings. So again, I talked about this and how the fact I wasn't going to be short into the earnings, and I wasn't. And good thing I wasn't, because I could see it going either way. I talked about, look, we were sitting right on support. So I figured there was a decent chance we were going to gap up and put in a new divergent high, and that's exactly what we did. Boom, right there. You look at the momentum, it's just dropping off, and yet we are, price, you've got the first divergence showed up right here. There's divergence, divergence, divergence. Momentum's dropping, and I figured that they would be selling into, after they got that divergent high, and that's exactly what's happened. Now, I don't want to just short this thing on a divergent high because it can just continue to diverge. So what I want to do is let this thing kind of play out, see if it can roll back down to this trend line and ultimately break the trend line for a sell signal. That's my sell signal I'm waiting for, to break that upward trend line. I think we're going to get it. But yeah, I'm just kind of watching this one. MasterCard, again, this one, bearish rising wedge, negative divergence, sell signal right there, and nothing but selling ever since. All right, we're down, it's down 5% and continuing to roll over. Again, when something is rolling over and heading to the downside, it typically, after an extended uptrend, you're going to follow the slope of hope, which means you drop a little and the dip buyers think, they don't realize that the trend's changed, and they come in and buy the dip, and you're going to get rallies, especially in the beginning of a trend change. Move down, rally up, continue down. Eventually, the dip buyers, because they've been buying the dip, and if it continues to take out the lows, they keep on mounting losses. Eventually, they capitulate and they throw in the towel. They can't take the pain anymore, and that is the moment where you see usually hard capitulatory selling, where the longs are just dumping, right? And you get margin calls and it all kind of builds on itself. Typically, you see those events near the end of downward moves, and it kind of clears out the excess. And yeah, so I think that's coming. When I put out a video and when I put out a headline, say crash is coming, okay, I put that out in the headline. That doesn't mean it's coming the day I put out the video, guys. Don't be stupid. I know you use any opportunity you can to try to, put me on blast and say I'm not a trader and say I'm, only making money from YouTube. Guys, if you know anything about YouTube, I've got 15,000 subscribers. That's nothing in YouTube world. That doesn't pay the bills, all right? Obviously, you don't know anything about that. But, continue to just comment, and, I'll continue to build the channel. I'm continuing to look to add value to subscribers. If you want to join the private member group, or if you're already in it, maybe you could vouch for me about the trades that I do post out there. And that's all I really have to say. I think we're heading lower. I think the crash is coming. I don't want to say, look, if this thing goes like this and it rolls over and maybe get another rally, okay, and then it maybe it really crashes. If I put out a video a couple weeks earlier saying a crash is coming, I was correct. If I could put out a video the day that the crash is there and you've dropped a ton, and I put a video saying crash is coming, it does nobody any good, all right? So I try to anticipate, I try to put out trade setups well in advance of the trade actually playing out, which means you're not going to be right and not going to just start to typically make money from day one that I put out the video, all right? You have to let trades kind of build and set up and trigger and then just work. You got to give them time to work, all right? Trades don't work overnight. All right. And just like in triple Qs, this one is, we basically, I was talking about this looking like a distribution top. We had negative divergence. I talked about that. This lasted for almost 6 weeks. So I talk about something for 6 weeks doesn't mean it's wrong, just means it takes time to play out. And then boom, first drop down, dip buyers step in, hit resistance. I didn't think it was going to hit this far, and I could see it chopping around in this area a little bit more. Maybe it wants to go up there and run some stops, fake some people out. That's completely possible. And then, but then I am anticipating that we do this. All right, we head lower for the next leg lower. The dip buyers aren't thinking that. The dip buyers are thinking that this was the low, and we're going to break back into the range, hit the top, and break out. They may be right, and I may be wrong. Only time will tell. We'll use the charts to be our guide. I've talked about where I think I'll be wrong at and where to stop out at. So that's basically it. Leave me a thumbs up, guys. Catch you on the next one. Bye.